Amen. You know this guy?
I know him from many years.
Okay, good morning, Kahel Kadosh. Shavua Tov u'mevorach to everyone. Today's breakfast and class, we have two sponsorship for the breakfast and the classes. First, we begin with Mr. Abraham Nigri, Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved father, Nisim ben Naomi Nigri, alav shalom. Additionally, today's class and breakfast graciously sponsored by Moises Maurice Sasson from Panama, Le'ilui Nishmat Hakam Zion Rahamim Levi ben Esther. As you heard today, the Ashkava Be'achokmah was made in honor of a great rabbi that really responsible for the beautiful growth and development of the Syrian community in Panama, the country in Panama, literally 2.5 hours away. So the rabbi really does not need my introduction. We spoke about the great rabbi many times, how much with his Yirat Shamayim, with his charisma, with his personality, and his love to every single member of the community, was able to establish a magnificent institution that, Baruch Hashem, is growing and growing continuously between the parameters of Torah and Avodat Hashem. So here it's on that the neshama of the great Hakam, Sion Rahamim al-Levi ben Esther, be a melitz yosher for all his community in Panama, and as well to the sponsors of today and our Kehillah as well, since many of our members do originate actually from Panama. I also like to dedicate today's class, Le'ilui Nishmat, my grandfather, Yosef ben Rivka, which I'm named after him, that today also is the day of his Askara. So with all that being said, please enjoy this beautiful Sa'udah that is in front of us. I'd like to say a beracha quickly before we begin. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Shehakol Nihiya B'Baruch. Amen. Thank you, William. Okay, Rabotai. Today's Gemara brings an interesting concept about the topic of a person living a life of luxury. Is it permissible? Is it allowed or not? And if it's allowed, what is allowed and what is not allowed? Let me clarify this, that this whole Gemara from Masechet Shabbat talks about the concept of a person remembering the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. Clear? Clear. Now the Gemara talks about different matters of pleasure that people used to do back then in the day. And believe me, the pleasures of those days and the pleasures of today are different, are way different. Allow me to do the talking, enjoy the Sa'udah. Like you want a sapusak? Right behind you, got 100 of them. Okay? Beautiful. Don't say a beracha, Le'ilui Nishmat. It's a great zechut. So it says the Gemara in Amos, quotes the pasuk from Amos, Bereshit Shemanim Imshahu. It says that people, in order to benefit their body physically, they used to anoint their body with a certain type of oil. Maybe today men don't do this, but in the olden days, this was the concept of sikha, with a chaf and a samech. That is one of the things that a person is not allowed to do in Kippur or in Tisha B'Av. But in the olden days, the Gemara says, Ze'aya shemen afarsamon. This was a special type of oil, right? That persimmon that will bring great benefit to the body. One Hacham made a takana, and it says no longer allowed. It says, how can you enjoy life when the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed? But allow me to say the following, Kahal Kadosh. I don't want anyone to walk out of this room telling you that from now on you only have to have bread and water. Because Baruch Hashem, you look at the magnificent breakfast behind you, you have way more than bread and water. You got plenty. But let's see how the Gemara understands this. And also remember that the Gemara took place towards the end of the destruction of the second Bet HaMikdash. So the wound was very fresh and very raw in the mind of Am Israel. It's like you're talking to someone that is 70, 80 years old, and you talk to them about the Holocaust. Most likely, they saw the Holocaust. Most likely, they lived through the Holocaust, especially if you happen to be a Yehudi from Europe. And the Gemara writes that certain Hachamim did not agree to this kind of ruling, but the Gemara goes and it says that there were certain Talmidei Hachamim who said, you know what? We need to do something to remember the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. If you go to many homes, many places, they have, right, Amma Alama, an area of unfinished wall, 18 inches by 18 inches. It's very common to see this. You know, if the entire house is painted in a certain color, there is an area that is left unfinished. Maybe raw cement or raw paint, but not completely finished. So the person, every time you look at that, you say, oh, I remember the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. That's why many times people, what they do in that spot, they put a sign that says, Im eshkachech Yerushalayim, tishkach yemini. This is exactly the same pasuk that we say right at the end of the Chuppah. Before you break the class, the Hatan says this pasuk. So there was one Hacham who says, you know what? From now on, no more meat. No more eating of meat. Why not? Because meat was korbanot, correct? The sacrifices in the Bet HaMikdash. One Hacham said, hold on a minute. Maybe you should not eat bread. Why not? Because the korban contained salt, a flour. Another Hacham says, hold on. Not only no meat and no wine and no flour, no wine, because was misucha yain. Other Hacham said, hold on, no water, because you have misucha mayim. You have the water libation. So the Gemara concludes and it says, En gozrim gezerah ala sibur she'efshar la'amod ba. Can you imagine if I tell you from now on, no more meat, no more flour, no more wine, no more water? What are you going to eat?
Nothing.
You're going to become vegan. Mahshi, no, mahshi has meat. You don't make mahshi with chicken.
Yesterday I ate vegetable mahshi.
Okay, you are a holy man. What can I tell you? But most of the normal mahshi, right? Meat and rice. Can you imagine keeping a belsia without meat? With chicken, never heard of such a thing. But finally the Gemara says, you cannot make gezerot. You cannot make decrees to the community which is impossible to stand by. And therefore, meat is permissible, wine is permissible, bread is permissible, and water is permissible. When it comes to water, no issue. But when it comes to meat and when it comes to wine, you need to make sure that you do it besides kosher. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about that a person should not become Haz v'Shalom, especially with the wine, Naval Birshut HaTorah. That a person should not say, oh, the Torah allows me to drink wine, so I'm going to celebrate Pesach every day of the week. For me, Purim is every day. Sure, Purim can be your every day, but for Simcha, not for drinking. Because God forbid, a person who drinks, especially without a limitation, without control, it affects his body, it affects his neshama, it affects his personality, and this is one of the 4 types of people that God says, one of the 4 types of people that God says, I can be with you. Arba'a Kadosh Baruch Hu Son'an. There are 4 that Hashem despises them. One of them is shikor, a person that succumbs, God forbid, under the influence of alcohol. The Gemara brings now additional concepts, and it says as follows. There were certain behaviors that people had back in the day. We're not saying that today is different. Today, behavior also is challenging in many areas of humanity, but the Gemara tells us that there were certain peculiar traditions that if you're going to hear them today, you're going to say, come on, who does this? Allow me to read them to you, because some of them are applicable today. One of them is not applicable today. But there were three of them, and the Gemara says as follows. שלושה דברים מביאים את האדם לידי עניות. There are three things, God forbid, that can bring poverty to the person. What are they? I'll read them in Hebrew, and then we'll open up each and every one of them בעזרת השם. המשתין מיתת מים לפני מיתתו ערום. I apologize in advance for describing this one graphically. This means that a person urinates next to the bed naked. I don't believe anybody does this, but in the olden days, they didn't have like we have today. Her bathroom, his bathroom, two toilets, one bidet, jacuzzi, Jack and Jill type of bathroom, all these things. These are things that today, this is how we live, right? How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms is very easy. But in the olden days, there wasn't such a thing as a bathroom and a flushing system. So you have two options, right? Option number two was walk out of your house or your tent, go out there and do whatever you need to do. Option number one, many people used to do it, God forbid, in the bedroom where they slept. They went through a corner, and that's a halachic problem. You cannot pray there. The smell is problematic. But also, the Gemara explains elsewhere that in an area where there is foul smell or lack of cleanliness, there is a malach in charge of distributing poverty that hangs around that area. So when that malach comes, he distributes poverty to the people who live in the home. And that's why you don't say a beracha next to a dumpster. You don't say a beracha if you hold a baby and the diaper is soiled, you cannot say a beracha. You cannot hold them while you pray neither. Why not? Because if there is foul smell, you cannot pray. You cannot say a beracha if there is a bad odor. So this one I believe that no one does. Number two, now we're going to get warmer. המזלזל בנטילת ידיים. A person that belittles the mitzvah of washing the hands, specifically prior to eating bread. Now, we know well the halakha. I don't have to repeat the halakha, but everybody knows when it comes to eating bread, a person washes the hands 3 times to the right, 3 times to the left. The halakha writes clearly that it's important that when you wash your hands, and Baruch Hashem today, it's not like it was many years back that a person needed to go to the well and walk and bring water that you got by with half a cup. Today, Baruch Hashem, water is available with shefa, with a tremendous amount of abundance. So the Ben Ish Chai writes, when you wash your hands, make sure to move your hand. So this way, water covers the entire area of the hand, and make sure that it goes up to your wrist. In the day of B'Av and Kippur, we do halfway. That's fine. But in the rest of the year, make sure to cover the upper part of the hand and the inner part of the hand. So you may ask, and I'm sure many of you know the answer, but what's the connection with poverty and netilat yadayim? There are a few answers. Number one, water is shefa. Water is abundance. Water is a lot of beracha. That is the reason why in the ancient times they used to anoint the king's wear by the water, because the water represents a lot of flow, so to speak, a lot of abundance. That's why we do tashlich next to the water, not only to remind us of the Akedat Ishaq and the fish and the egg, but it's also, since Rosh Hashanah is the day that we're crowning a Kadosh Baruch Hu as the king, so to speak, so we symbolically do it next to the water. So the more water a person uses for Netilat Yadayim, especially the Netilat Yadayim to eat bread, the more beracha comes to the person, and we keep poverty away. And now, poverty, and you know this answer, but I'm going to put it in writing so the audience can see it live via itorah.com. So we know the beracha is al netilat yadayim. If you look at the first letter, you can look right, you can look at it, ani, ain, nun, yod. What's the meaning of the word ani? Poor. Al netilat yadayim, rashi tevot, ani. So when you do netilah with a lot of water, you keep away the poverty from the person's life. Something easy, unbelievable. You know, sometimes people ask, Rabbi, I need a segula to parnasa. So now the gemara is giving you a freebie. You want to make sure that the parnasa of the person flows accordingly? Not a problem. Make sure to do netilah properly. Sure, when it comes to my mahalonim, you do limited amount of water. But when it comes to netilat yadayim, use it. Baruch Hashem, water, thank God, is available. And now comes the third one. And don't laugh and don't cry. Don't laugh and don't cry. ושאשתו מקללתו בפניו. The wife that curses the husband in his face.
Heavy.
Heavy. I told you, I warned you. That's why I said, don't laugh and don't cry. Some people will cry. Say, Uli, Rabbi, so all my parnasa issues is because my wife screams at me? Short answer. She curses you. Screaming and cursing is the same thing. Sure. It doesn't mean cursing only. Yani, your wife is not happy with you. Shalom bayit. We learned this back then when the Sefer Amidot illustrates 20 situations that affect the parnasa of the person. And one of them in the list is Shalom bayit. We're going to review this when it comes to Perashah V'Shalach, and we read the Perashah of the man. But I'll tell you now, it says very simple. When there is more Shalom bayit in the person's home, Hashem becomes an integral part of the person's life, of the couple's life. And guess what? If HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes and is with you, with us obviously, as the Gemara writes, Ish be'isha zachu shechina sheruya benehem. Husband and wife, that they have a nice shalom bayit in their home, husband and wife that work on themselves. That's the true meaning of that Gemara. Zachu, although many times people explain it, that means they have them married. But in this Gemara, it doesn't mean zechut. It means zachu. Zachu means they purified themselves. They acted on their self-improvement. The way we learned not long ago in the name of Rabino Chaim Vital. The Rabino Chaim Vital says that one of the main goals of marriage is that husband and wife learn to work with each other and they polish. I said this on Shabbat afternoon, but there was no recording on Shabbat afternoon. So I explained, how do you polish a diamond? How do you polish a diamond? With a diamond. So you have two diamonds now. You have husband and wife. So what do? You take the husband and wife, you put them together under a roof, and now they have to learn how to live together. So the husband makes changes, the wife makes changes, they make changes for one another, in honor of one another. It's not what I want, it's what we need, or we want, or what you would like to do. It works, right?
Compromise.
In beginning is poor, then become fair, then become good, then become very good. When the
So he's giving us a shi'ur in diamond polishing. If you need a diamond, talk to him. He knows somebody in the
and the
industry.
marriage the same thing basically.
Right. So he says as follows. In a diamond, the way it works is that the less polished the diamond is, the less value it has, right? It begins raw, fair, good, very good, and excellent. The difference is between $1,000 or $50,000, more or less. Hazak, don't forget the commissioner. Okay, I'm not in the diamond industry, he's. But anyways, so a beautiful analogy, by the way. Hazak Baruch. For security reasons, we'll keep your identity secret. No, be'emet. But anyways, you need to have ne'emanut. When you buy a diamond, you need to have trust that the person is giving you something that is valuable.
Not lab grown.
Right? No lab grown, no man-made, no CZ or Rashetevot. That is true the way the proper protocol dictates in any area of business, but especially in diamond, that not too many people really have a keen knowledge of the topic. But let's go back. His analogy was excellent. The more husband and wife learn about each other and interact with each other and are willing to compromise with each other, the more chances that the relationship will flourish. And the Torah believes in this concept. Because remember what we learned back in the summer, Perashat Shofetim, that one of the exceptions of going to war is being what? Shana Rishona. The first year of marriage, the Torah says, stay home. Why? Because you have a priority more than joining the Torah army. Besimach et ishto asher lakach is to bring happiness to your wife. So let's now target the Gemara from the opposite side of the street. So far, we spoke about beautiful, diamond, polish, excellent hazak. But what happens, God forbid, when the case of the Gemara explains, sheishto mekalilato befanav. When the wife curses the husband or screams at the husband, there are two levels, in front of the husband or behind the back of the husband. Maybe the wife sometimes called her mother to complain about her husband. I'm telling you this to the female audience watching this class. It is not a good recipe to share with your parents every detail that happens in your marriage. Sure, there are certain situations that perhaps to ask an advice, to ask a suggestion, it's necessary. If God forbid, should never happen, the situation is critical and disastrous, of course, but don't pick up the phone and call your parents every second, oh, he said this, he said that, because that not only doesn't build a relationship, but we have seen through professional experience that many, many times parents, when they get involved, they don't really help. I'll tell you a story that happened many years back, that a girl married, had a discussion with the husband, and she called her father 10:30 at night. And she says to him, Dad, I'm coming home to sleep and an argument with my husband. The father said, daughter, you are at your home. Stay where you are. Don't come here. Because if the wife leaves the house, or the husband leaves the house, in the moment of a mahloket to sleep elsewhere, I hope it's not that's it, but you're right. It's already setting up the stage of whatever kind of mindset the person may have. Now, why the Gemara highlights befanav? Befanav. Because if already the wife has the capability of cursing the husband or yelling at the husband into his face, so it means that she no longer has much, so to speak, a degradation, so to speak, or, putting him down, etc. Which, excuse me, of course. But the Gemara is telling us that the husband, many, many times, and I had a situation not long ago about a husband who believed that he was the best husband on the face of the earth.
No, okay. Second best.
No, okay. Okay, maybe the third best. Okay, get in line. Okay, but I ask him, what do you do that you label yourself the best husband of the world? So he tells me, I pay the mortgage, I pay the lease, I pay the khadame, I pay the tuition, I pay. So you know what I said to him? I said, you're a good provider. That doesn't mean that you're a good husband. Oh yeah, believe me. When I have to put on my sheriff mask, I put it. You know me as a nice guy, I am a super nice guy. Okay? I am a super nice guy. But if I have to say something respectfully and tactfully, I'll do my best to say it just to clear the air. And he said to this husband, you're a good provider. What do you mean, Rabbi, I'm paying? I said, again, every point that you mentioned to me has to do with finances. And many people are good providers, but that doesn't make you a good husband. Doesn't make you a good father. You agree?
I agree.
I think, thank you. I think we all agree.
A lot of husbands hide behind that.
I understand that, and that they believe that this is their ultimate mission. But although it's important, let's clarify that Baruch Hashem, that husbands are able to provide for the wife and children. That's a beracha by itself. But marriage is more about paying bills. How many times a wife says, I just want you to listen to me. I want you not to interrupt me when I talk. Did you ever hear that? Yeah. Me too. What do you think? I'm an angel?
You're right.
You know, I may be an angel externally, but I have what to work on. And how many times the wife says, please don't interrupt me when I'm talking. Allow me to finish my statement. Sounds familiar?
Very familiar.
Okay, I think we are all on the same boat. So being a good listener, now we understanding that is beneficial for a relationship. Being a giver instead of a taker. That's something that we discussed in one of the classes of Hatanim, that I told a Hatan that one of the ultimate goals in life is ahava. What's ahava?
Love.
Love. Everybody knows it. Ahava ve'ahva shalom bere'ut. So love from the wife to the husband, or love from the husband to the wife. Ahava is gematria ehad, one. There are two halves that become one whole. So when you have ahava ehad is gematria 13, ahava ehad gematria 13. So there is mutual love, mutual acceptance, mutual feelings, etc. What do you have now? Yod ke vav ke. You have 13 and 13, 26. When there is mutual love, the Shekhinah comes. And guess what? Once you love someone, you don't look at helping like a burden. You do it. Your wife asks you something, you heard me already, mopping, cleaning, shopping, doing whatever needs to be done. True story, by the way. And out of love, you do it. I'm sure you also do it. I see you around. I see you mopping the balcony many times. Of course. From my building, I see you. Anyways, madhab. Yes. So, but you know what? An interesting hidush, that if you look at the word ahava, the center letters are he, bet, hab. In Aramaic, hab means to give. In marriage, you have to be a giver. If you say, wait till she does something and then I'll do it, no. You do, and it will come back. It's actually a pasuk in the Torah. Perashat Kitisa. Perashat Kitisa discusses about the mitzvah of Mahasit HaShekel. Right? Exactly. The pasuk writes in the mitzvah of Mahasit HaShekel, Venatenu ishkofer nafsho la'Hashem bifkod otam. Venatenu is an interesting word. First, exactly, but also in the ta'am, azla gerish. The ta'am is azla gerish. When you give, that's the giving. Gerish comes back to you. And that's why the pasuk says, Venateno. How do you say the word you just said in English?
Palindrome.
Palindrome. You know what that means? That you can read the word left and right the same way. Vav, nun, tav, nun, vav. Perfect word. Vav, vav. Nun, nun, tav in the middle. Natenu is Natan, of giving. So the Torah is telling us, when you give, you receive. It's a giving tzedakah. A person gives ma'aser. A person gives tzedakah. What happens? You have guaranteed return. Guaranteed return. Le'olam, Rambam says, En adam ma'ani et atzmo min tzedakah. Rambam says, giving tzedakah is guaranteed return. It's not like you giving, I'm giving, what I'm going to do? You gain, what Olam will give you back. Obviously, it's important to know that even when it comes to giving tzedakah, there are parameters. There are parameters how much tzedakah the person can give. This is besides taking care of your family needs, obviously, which is important, but tzedakah, there are parameters. You can give, ma'aser especially, up to homesh. Homesh is 20% of your net income. Some people give 10, some people give 13, 14, some people give 20%. You want to give more? We need to give you an approval to give more. What does it mean? If you have plenty, Ben Porat Yosef, and you want to give, doesn't affect you whatsoever, Hazaku Baruch. But giving more than 20 is going to start affecting you, the Lacha says, no, Homesh. And we learn this on the pasuk that says, Aser te Aser. So the Gemara explains the concept of that the wife curses the husband. So I believe that we all agree that although the Gemara used a very strong language for today's generation, that marriages became disposable. You need to know the facts out there. Marriages became disposable. Remember, maybe 50 years ago, as a child, I never heard the word divorce. The only divorce I was aware of, Gemara Gitin. Gemara Gitin. Masechet Gitin. That's it. You learn in the yeshiva Gemara Gitin. Okay. We couldn't understand as children, what does it mean? The guy divorces his wife. Obviously, as you grow through life and you become more mature and more knowledgeable of life, you have to understand that Has v'shalom sometimes could be situations that regretfully a divorce is necessary. And that's why there is a mitzvah from the Torah to give a get to the wife. Right? We know this halacha. But don't run to do this halacha. This halacha, it's preventable. This mitzvah can be prevented. And I don't usually say preventing a mitzvah to be done, but this is the exception. The exception of preventing someone doing the mitzvah of getting divorced. Why? The Gemara at the end of Masechet Gitin writes and it says, Kol ha-megaresh et ishto, mizbeach zoreh alav dema'ot. Borei Olam sheds tears. Why? Short answer. Because Borei Olam says, I believed in you. I put you together with your spouse. Now, let's clarify. There are sometimes, and this is a very complicated topic, that I don't think that I have the knowledge to speak about it, but sometimes there are tikkunim to the neshamot. Sometimes a spouse needs to leave the world prematurely, and the Zohar Kadosh writes, God forbid, the Zohar Kadosh writes that this is one of the most painful actions that a Kadosh Baruch Hu needs to take. That sometimes part of Hashem's master plan is husband to marry the spouse or the wife to marry his husband, and either one of them has an early departure to bring husband and wife to round 2 of who they were supposed to marry. But don't ask questions in this topic because I don't have that answer. Maybe Rabbeinu Hari had the answer. But that's what the Zohar Kadosh explains. So, to finish today's class, bottom line, Kahal Kadosh, the Gemara is telling us that if we are meticulous in these matters, interesting enough, the Gemara didn't say you must learn 10 hours a day. The Gemara didn't say you must pray nets only. The Gemara didn't say you must work 8 hours a day exactly. That was yesterday's Gemara that we didn't get to learn fully, but the Gemara says that a person needs to divide their day in Torah, Tefillah, learning, working, family time, whatever physical needs a person has, and Yeshalish, according to the Maimonides, you should learn 8 hours a day, work 8 hours a day, and do everything else in 8 hours a day. Where do we learn it from? The Pasuk. That it comes from the Navi is a Pasuk that we say every Shabbat morning before the prayer of Musaf. I'll read you the Pasuk. The Pasuk writes, Ki az tasliach et derachecha ve'az taskil. Az, numerical value 8. 8, tasliach, livelihood. Az taskil, Torah learning. 8 hours of Torah, 8 hours of work, and 8 hours for the rest of what you need to do. But interesting enough, today's Gemara didn't say none of the above. What the Gemara said? Be careful with modesty, so to speak. Number one, something that Baruch Hashem, everybody is normal today, hopefully, and goes to the bathroom and you close the door of the bathroom. That's one way to put it. Number two, making netilat yadayim easy, no-brainer. Can you imagine you make netilat yadayim good, and when you come to your store, you have customers waiting to buy and to pay full price. Where that beracha came from, according to what we are learning now, the netilat yadayim, and work in your shalom bayit. Avoid your wife screaming at you. Seems that in the time of the Gemara, the ladies also talk loud towards the husband. No offense to the wonderful ladies of the class as well. What I'm saying is that the Gemara seems to imply that why the wife screams at the husband. Let's close the book. Let's open the floor for 5 minutes. Why the wife screams at the husband.
He doesn't give her attention.
Okay, great answers. Maybe the husband, you give a great answer. Maybe the husband doesn't give it attention. That's one way. That's a beautiful answer. Another answer you gave, what? Maybe the husband misbehaved, or the husband is not considerate, or the husband talks down to the wife. I have, of course, could be some exceptions, like he said, we'll keep her identity secret. It could be the wife screams to the husband because she's a screamer. Okay? Maybe she likes to scream. Maybe the way she was raised to scream, etc.
She has a loud voice.
Maybe she has a loud voice. Excellent point. But by the way, even if a person has a loud voice, we learned already in the name of the Nachmanides and in many other sources, Ramban, that a person should not speak in a loud voice. Titnaheg tamid ledaber kol devarecha benachat. Because sometimes people that talk in a loud voice, and from professional experience, I can tell you that I have cases like this. That a husband tells me, that's the tone of my voice. I said, okay, that's the tone of your voice when you are outside of your home. But once you come to your home, you have to lower the volume. You have to lower the volume. What's the problem? What's if your wife is not the Chadame? There was a case that I had not long ago, that the husband treats the wife like a Chadame. True story, Rabotai. I'm not telling you 1984. I'm talking to you about 2021. 2021. No, he's talking to him. 2021. It's not Pashut. So you gave a great answer. Give attention to the wife. Behave yourself good. Help. Offer a kind word. Make the effort. You know, you can do a lot of things, baby steps, that help to reignite the love, the relationship, the feelings for each other. And if God put a husband and wife together, 99.9 it means that Hashem believes in the relationship. But it's up to us as husbands and the ladies' department, the wives, to put the effort. And whatever we may have said, let's clarify that if the wife it's screaming at the husband, or the way the language the Gemara says the wife curses the husband, it means that the husband crossed lines.
Can the wife curse her? Can the husband curse his wife?
God forbid.
In her
God forbid. But you have to understand, ladies are emotional. So therefore, the Gemara tells you an interesting concept. It's a Gemara. It says, "Le'olam yizahera adam b'chvod ishto." The husband needs to be super careful in the way that he honors his wife. And the Gemara tells you the reason. "Mipenei shelim'ata mesuya o na'ata mesuya." Short explanation means because tears come out easily from the lady's eyes, so she becomes hurt very easily. So you can make a comment to your wife, okay? And to you, what's the big deal? I just say something, but the wife takes it personal, and that's a sensitivity that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave in the wife. You know, like the wife has a sixth sense. The Gemara writes, "Bina yetera nitena leisha." The wife has intuition that the husband doesn't have. So the Gemara is telling the husband, interesting enough, that most of the messages of the Talmud in the topic of Shalom Bayit are messages to the husband, not messages to the wife. Obviously, the wife is listening to the class, and she's going to say, okay, from now on, I'm going to try to scream at my husband less, or not to scream at him at all. But for that to happen, the husband needs to do the homework, not to put himself in a position that she is going to scream at him. And whatever reason it may be. I mean, this was not intended to be a therapy class of Shalom Bayit, but I think that the Gemara message is loud and clear. Go the extra mile, do the effort, be a giver, be thoughtful, be sensitive, give attention, help, pay, and I repeat, paying bills alone is not enough. Paying bills, it makes you a good provider. Of course, being able to pay the bills, it's also a good thing for Shalom Bayit. But it's all connected. The Gemara writes that the parnassah of the husband is depending on the wife. That's what the Gemara writes. The parnassah comes to the husband in the merit of the wife. So a wise guy asked me the other day, so Rabbi, you're telling me that I'm struggling in parnassah because it's my wife's fault? Right. So they said to him, no, Hacham Bashi, that's not the answer. The answer is that because your wife is not happy with you, with your actions, your behavior, so that reflects in your livelihood. I know that is a heavy statement what the Gemara says, but I'm only telling you what's written in the holy books. I can add my 2 cents for comical purposes, but the Metziut is that this is exactly what the Gemara writes. And if you look in the books of Shalom Bayit, they will tell you, make sure to preserve the harmony and the love and the peace and the acceptance and the respect in a marriage. Don't belittle your wife. It doesn't matter, what she did or the background. Sometimes people make coarse type of jokes, which are not acceptable. Coarse means rough, very type of, and believe me, I had situations in the past of couples that, you can blame it in cultural difference between husband and wife, but kavod is 101. It doesn't matter where you come from. Mutual respect is essential, and mutual respect is non-negotiable. It's mandatory for a happy and a healthy relationship. And I'll finish with this. Whatever happens in the relationship between a husband and wife, there is a domino effect called the children. Guaranteed. Guaranteed. We learned this in the ladies' class 2 weeks ago. Whatever happened, you want to be a good parent, be a good husband. Pashut. You do that, you're in the right track.
But the wife still asking more and more.
The more you give, so first of all, I don't know many wives that will ask their husband to give a Rolls Royce. Number one. If you know that, pray to Natilat Yadayim double, with a lot of kavanah.
6 times.
So I'll tell you what I'm going to say something that I did not wanted to say, but he's forcing me to say. The Gemara writes, "U'aheva kegufo, u'chabeda yoter migufo." Translation.
Everyone do that.
Okay, let's hope. Let me translate and with this we'll finish. The Gemara writes, a husband must love his wife like he loves yourself. And you have to honor your wife more than what you do for yourself. So, you understand? So if you do something for you, for her, you need to go an extra step. Some ladies, Baruch Hashem, don't have this demanding personality. The problem is that sometimes, today with technology and everything else that is out there, people, social media, etc., people are enticed, and they give you a message that if you don't have this or you don't have that, you are not happy. I'll tell you a secret. A person who needs something physical to be happy, it means that they are not happy elsewhere in the heart or in the emotions. So I'm giving you another tip, that the more your wife is happy with our actions, our behavior, our attention, and our caring, believe me, the emotions are filled, and then the demands for a Rolls Royce, like he said before, will go into a Lexus maybe. Instead, okay, a Genesis, that's good, that's what affordable. Yeah, Genesis is good. Okay, my good friends.